Welcome to this live special edition of Get Out South Florida LGBT Radio, heard from Vero Beach to Key West on 850 WFTL, worldwide on 850WFTL.com, and on WRMF HD2. I'm Tom Hansaritas, and tonight we're breaking our usual format to welcome our in-studio guest, Milo Yiannopoulos, gay Greeks in one studio. There's got to be a joke somewhere there. So let's get to it.
There is. I know what the joke is. Yeah.
There is.
How do you separate Greek men from boys?
With a crowbar.
With a crowbar.
Yeah,
there we go. You see, only Greeks know this
I
joke.
know. Greece, where the men are men and the sheep are nervous. Yeah. The reactions to having you on this show have been extreme, from both sides. Comments on our social media page have called for me not to give you a platform for hate and bigotry. And
I don't have a platform at all. I have a really uncomfortable chair.
Could you get off the
I'd like
the
a
counter?
platform.
But, mostly from people who just read social media, have never listened to the show. So, I say, if you've never listened to the show. But to people from this radio show's other hosts, they've decided not to be it. But quite honestly, about 65% of the enlightened people who have listened to Get Out South Florida and know you, adorable as you are, believe that you are.
I know.
Believe that
it's my secret weapon, you see.
Is it?
It's my secret weapon because I've got this reputation as some kind of dangerous, evil, sociopathic monster, and then people meet me and they're like, "Wait, what?"
You're cute and smart,
I know.
So
it's a curse.
I'm not going to I'm not going to cloak this under freedom of speech because, it's just, it's my show. And I could choose to have anyone I want about it, but it's about open, intelligent discussion and the willingness to learn. One thing I learned about your book, Dangerous, which is available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and I'm sure you'll tell me where else.
That's good. He's got 5 of those contractually before the end of the hour.
Okay. All right. But, one of the things is that I've learned is that people, know issues, but very much on the surface. They don't delve deeper into it.
Well, people don't read. They've been taught not to read. They've been trained not to read by the media. By outrage culture. They've been trained to apply a label to somebody, judge them accordingly, and move on with their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my audience is, I guess, it's just a higher IQ audience than your average media consumer. So they understand that every issue you care to mention that actually matters, whether it's love, sex, death, or money, is enormously more complex than either political party would have you believe, and enormously more complex than most journalists are capable of understanding.
Really, I look forward to this discussion. We're going to have some fun. So stay tuned. In 60 seconds, Milo Yiannopoulos, live here on Get Out South Florida LGBT Radio. Stay where you are. And we're back. This is Get Out South Florida LGBT Radio on 850 WFTL, streaming live worldwide on 850WFTL.com and on the mighty WRMF HD2. We'll also be taking calls, so you'll want to write this number down, 877-850-8585. If you looked at our Facebook page, I gave you some names that you can use instead of your own names, Chip, Felicia. So let's get to it. Welcome again to our in-studio guest, Milo Yiannopoulos, author of the best-selling book, Dangerous, now available online.
That's 2 of 5, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're a really smart guy. I mean, do I stand a chance here?
Well, I don't know. It depends if you agree with me or not. If you agree with me, then I'm sure you'll be fine.
Well, we're going to have a part at the end of the show for conclusions.
Okay.
So before we start, in your book, Dangerous, now available online at Amazon.com.
So you're getting them all out of the way early, aren't you? So you can be mean to me later.
I won't be mean to you.
Okay.
I won't be mean to you.
That one doesn't count.
You describe the art of the troll.
Yes.
Okay, and in case you wanted to troll me first, tell us about the art of the troll and what truths do you think are necessary to tell?
Well, it was my observation as a Brit coming to America, imagining this was going to be the land of free speech, the home of free expression and free kind of creative enterprise, that this would be a place you could be, say, and do anything. And it turned out, in fact, that speech was regulated, not perhaps by the government as it is in Europe, but by corporations and by other Americans to an extraordinary extent, to the point at which, people are scared to say hi to women in the office for fear of, being slapped with some kind of sexist crusade from the HR department. It's been an extraordinary revelation for me and a remarkable journey in America, discovering the extent of political correctness. And it seems to me that the media, who are recklessly and in many cases mendacious, deliberately, but just purposely dishonest, describe a reality that simply isn't reflected in the America that most people live in. And the only people, it seemed to me, that were telling the truth was this mischievous, dissident, deviant subculture, this sort of emerging populist, nationalist, Trumpian alt-right. And as I described the alt-right very early on, it was a very broad cross-section, maybe as much as half or two-thirds of the Republican Party. That term has come now to mean something new and something uglier and something much more restrictive. And as a result, I have nothing to do with it any longer. And my chapter 2 in my book is called Why the Alt-Right Hates Me. But it was my observation that those mischievous trolley types on the internet, and you might class Donald Trump as one of them even, were the only people telling the truth about various things, whether it's the wage gap or campus rape culture, and were the only people talking about stuff that the public actually wanted to hear about. I mean, he was a guy who effectively trolled his way to the presidency, and I mean that as a compliment, who did so by talking about something people actually care about, immigration, in a way that no other politician had dared to do for decades. So when I talk about the art of the troll, I mean getting a response from people, getting a reaction out of people, prompting controversy, provoking them, but for a higher purpose, doing it for good. Without that higher purpose, without that ultimate moral end goal, it's just meanness. But the art of the troll, as I describe it and as I like to think of it in the introduction to my book, is a sort of virtuous pursuit that combines laughter and war, because nobody can resist the truth wrapped in a good joke. And my insight has been that the progressive left, which is the primary enemy of the First Amendment in this country, is especially vulnerable to ridicule. They cannot stand being laughed at. So I've laughed repeatedly, loudly, and directly in their faces. And I've done it on college campuses, I've done it in the media, I've done it in Hollywood, I've done it everywhere that I can. And as a result, they hate me. And they've described me as all manner of things. They've lied and called me a white supremacist. They've lied and called me a racist, lied and called me a sexist.
I was called the same things this week.
Of course, lied and concocted a disingenuous pedophilia scandal after I, one remark tumbled out of my mouth that was slightly badly phrased when I was talking about how, gay people growing up and forming relationships with older men. None of this has been effective, just as none of the criticism of Donald Trump was effective, because there's actually more power now in speaking loudly, plainly, and amusingly in the face of the scolds and the nannies and the cultural commissars of the progressive left, whether it's the media or college professors or Hollywood celebrities, all the ranked masses of the progressive left establishment. They're all nuts and they're all liars. And when you laugh in their faces, A, nothing bad happens, and B, actually, you become a hero to, at least half the country. One person did that and ended up in the White House. I've done it too, and I'm now enjoying my third week in the New York Times bestseller list, despite every effort from the media and publishing establishment to crush my book. I'd say that's a pretty strong signal that America is welcoming a bit of trolling.
There were, I remember...
That was a really good answer, wasn't it?
That was really good.
I was happy with that.
That's very good.
I just had a cup of coffee, so I'm very tired today. I had a 9-hour photo shoot yesterday, which I
Did you change your clothes since that? Because you look fabulous.
No, well, I look fabulous all the time, but I did, yes.
Foolish me.
Good heavens. I don't dress up just for you. I dress up every day.
Oh, come on, give me a break.
No, I did dress up a little bit for you.
Okay, thank you. But, I used to say before the elections, and they Hillary and Trump were like, and I'm like, he's at least 30 points, 20 to 30 points ahead, because there were people who just didn't want to say they were voting for Daddy.
Of course.
And,
I made that up, don't you? That was me.
Daddy?
Yeah, I called Trump Daddy first in a Breitbart piece.
Oh, you're just getting ahead of my questions. But
I'm sorry. I'm
right,
sorry, you see, I'm like that. I'm always...
It's okay.
I was going to make a sex joke, and I never know what's allowed on the radio these days.
Well,
so.
we're on a 20-second delay, so we can cut out whatever you like.
Well, just assume I said something sordid and disgusting.
All right, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about Daddy. President Trump. But there's this kid outside, 19 years old. He's wearing a Make America Great hat, and I said, Brandon, his name is. And I said, don't you get a lot of crap for that? He says, oh, yeah, man. They're like beating me up all the time. And
they love it, don't they?
They love it. But I have to give so I don't know what his motivation is, but the kid's got a lot of courage. You know, I didn't even want to say I was gay in high school, let alone tell people I was a Republican. And so there were like, the things that we were called this week for having you on the show, I said last week, if I had one of the protesters from USC Berkeley who burned down Starbucks and threw Molotov cocktails at police cars, they'd be applauding it. But
well, I just want to know who these people
are.
Where are these cowards? Why won't they sit in the studio and debate me? They call me a troll. They call me a clown. They call me a lightweight. They say that giving me a platform is giving a platform to hate speech, to triviality, to trolling. Well, the reason they don't show up is they know that I would absolutely flatten them in debate. So if I'm a clown, what does that make them? Where are these people? Where are these brave souls on social media hurling insults at radio hosts for having the temerity to have a New York Times best-selling author on their show? Give me a break. Where are you?
Come and debate me.
Yes, that was a compliment.
Oh, thank you.
That's the only one you're getting. You know, where are these people? Show up. If you think I'm wrong, debate me. If you think you'll lose, stay home. I think everybody knows the answer to all that. Everybody knows what's really going on. The last election demonstrated what was really going on. There's something called, as the new CEO of my company introduced me to this concept called preference falsification. It's a concept from sociology. It describes how everybody sort of lies if they know that they kind of have to get along in polite society. Kind of like the way everybody these days in Hollywood says they're a feminist, irrespective of what their specific beliefs are. Because to declare that you're not is a dangerous political statement for which there are consequences. So, for instance, before the fall of the Berlin Wall, everybody was for Russia right up until they weren't, and then suddenly everybody was pro-West, and that's called a preference cascade, and it occurs at the moment. See, we were talking before about me not coughing, but something else is going on. It occurs. Something stuck in my throat.
Is it me? No. Okay.
You should be so lucky. It occurs when people realize that there are not only no consequences attached to saying what they really believe, but they might even have advantages. They might even find up friends. They might even benefit from saying what they really believe. So if people smell a rat and sense that something's up with this manufactured panic about rape on college campuses, which is lunacy, the wage gap, which is feminist mythology, and they're told that not only can they not disagree with any of this stuff, they're not even allowed to ask about studies, they're not even allowed to request numbers without being called misogynists and hateful and chased out of newsrooms and imperiling their careers and breaking up friendships, they start to realize that there's something going on here, that there's a gap opening up between the way the world is described to them and the way the world really is. Well, that's precisely what's going on in so much of America and in so many arenas in America, and that's what my book is about. Every chapter is about a group that I think is driving a wedge between description and reality, between reportage and reality, between what we're allowed and supposed to say in real life and what we know to be really true. And this preference cascade can happen very quickly. It happened around the fall of the Berlin Wall, and it happened in the last election when suddenly millions of Americans said, you know what, screw you guys, I'm voting for Trump. And it's happened also with the publication of my book, despite,
Dangerous. Available on Amazon.com.
You can have that one. Despite, like I say, so I have evidence of this now. People always ask me, there's this conservatives are always saying there's this grand conspiracy. Well, there is.
There is.
I got forwarded a newsletter yesterday. You can find it on my Facebook. I got forwarded a newsletter yesterday, and it is a paid newsletter for the publishing industry in New York. And every senior editor is on it. All of the agents are on it, and all the rest of it, and it says explicitly, we participate enthusiastically in the conspiracy to dissuade people from buying Milo's book. That is the official position of the entire publishing industry in New York. They are so afraid of this book being successful. They are so dedicated to its destruction,
and they think it's your ego that is speaking when you talk about. There are people out there trying to destroy me. Well, that's just Milo being egotistical. It's self-centered.
Well,
Which you are, but I mean...
I was going to say, no, they're entirely right. I'm massively egotistical.
Honey, if I
I'm,
looked like you, I'd be egotistical
also,
too.
Oh, aren't you lovely?
Yes.
No, I'm the most self-centered person you'll ever meet, but I'm also right about everything, which is what makes me so infuriating.
I did say to Purdy before you were out, and I said, is he really that nice? and Purdy said, I don't want to tell you. But after reading your book...
You see, he's very clever, my cameraman. He's a hero of the conservative movement, Matt Purdy.
He still signs the back of the checks.
Yeah.
But after reading
he knows not to give you a straight answer to anything.
Straight. Okay. Hey, we're talking to Milo Yiannopoulos live on Get Out South Florida LGBT Radio right here on 850 WFTL. You know, after reading your book, I can agree that you are not a white supremacist. You are not a neo-Nazi. You are rather hot. And it seems to me...
You're going to get in more trouble for that than anything else.
Oh, what the heck. People have slept with worse. And no, I'm kidding. But it seems to me, and I believe you state this in your book, that people start using labels without actually knowing what they mean.
Yeah.
I
think it's worse than that. I think they do know what they mean. It is
worse than that.
I think they do know what they mean, and they do it anyway. I don't think that NBC News journalists don't know what white supremacist and white nationalist means. But when they apply it to me, forcing me to get my lawyers to get a retraction out of them. By the time they change the article, I note without an apology, everyone's already read it anyway, and I have to spend $750,000 a year on private security just to make sure I don't get killed by people who everywhere. You'd never know until
really?
you
Robert,
went.
Do you work for Milo?
You'd never know where they were until you came too close.
Oh my God! I feel like I'm at Home Depot. Somebody's watching me.
No, but the thing is, they know they use these labels knowingly and maliciously, and they do it on purpose. They do it knowing that there are no consequences for them because they can. The problem is it's reached such a point where nobody believes them anymore because they've been proven to be liars, not just mistaken, not just unprofessional, but malicious liars. So many times that now, 39% of the American population now trusts the press. Well, nobody did that to them. Trump didn't do it to them. I didn't do it to them. They did it to themselves. And the more they call me a white supremacist, the more people come and check me out and say, yeah, it doesn't sound likely. Some gay guy with a black fiance is a white supremacist. Yeah, come on, what's this all about? So they read the book, or they read a column of mine, or they watch a speech, and they become a fan because I'm interesting and charismatic and unusual. And then whose reputation ends up being damaged? Not mine, but NBC News. And that's how they have been behaving for 30 years. And everything they are getting from Donald Trump, they deserve. People ask me on the rare occasion that somebody dares to invite me into a mainstream media newsroom, NPR, for instance, which of course never broadcast the interview because I was too reasonable and likable. When they ask me, what about this Donald Trump's crusade against the media? I say, you deserve it. You brought it on yourselves, and you did it by lying to and about the American people. You did it by constantly demonizing conservatives. You did it by misrepresenting perfectly reasonable, rational, normal, mainstream positions as hateful, bigoted, white nationalists, white supremacists, all the rest of the other words that have been thrown at me. But the reason that I make such a fuss about it when it's done to me is not because I'm a victim or I have thin skin. I'm not. I've got the thickest skin of anyone you'll ever meet.
Very nice skin, by the way.
Thank you. It was very expensive.
Yeah. This is radio, so I have to describe these things.
No, it's important to paint a picture.
Yes.
You get out what you put in. Have a very moisturize.
It's
important. I basically spent my entire day slathering my face. No, but you said it was a gay show. I could see what I wanted.
Oh, please.
No, but this is the problem. This is what's happened. And the reason I make a fuss about it when it happens to me isn't because I am mortally wounded by the rudeness and inaccuracy of reporting. It's because I want to draw attention to how the media operates. Because when they do it to private citizens, like let's say, for instance, Memories Pizza, when the odious gay lobby goes for Memories Pizza has no recourse. Now, it happens to be the case just in that one instance that they got enough sympathetic press and they, people donated to them, and it sort of ended up all right for them. But ordinary Americans, or at least the opinions of ordinary Americans, are routinely demonized as bigoted when they simply aren't. Just for being to the right of Jane Fonda, that's unacceptable. What the media is doing isn't a dereliction of duty. It's not forgetfulness. It's not negligence. It is outright deliberate mendacity. and it's got to stop. And the more they do it, the more successful I will become, and the longer people like Trump will be in the Oval Office. So long may they reign. Long may they reign.
Can I have my show back for a second?
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I just find myself so interesting, and you're asking such. No, I'm just kidding.
All right. No, you are interesting. But how did all this start? You know, one of my favorite books, and my engineer Robert read it, Kirsten Powers, Silencing, How the Left is Killing Free Speech. Have you read it?
Yeah, I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Have you really?
Yes. No, I have.
No. Okay. And it's true. I'm going to talk about the establishment gaze. That's a chapter in your book.
Yeah, it's one of the best ones.
It is.
Yeah.
And, you know, we are, just this week, for example, with the transgender issue. I get it. I get it. I'm not against transgender individuals. I'm really not. But I can understand what happens when somebody on hormone therapy, I've never been on hormone therapy, have you?
No.
Okay.
No.
How it might affect...
I have other difficulties, but that's not one of them.
Do you? What? You have beautiful teeth, a perfect nose? I mean...
Stop. I'm getting new teeth next month. They're not that beautiful, but thank you for saying so
I'm going to
anyway.
have to take... Can I take a before and after picture?
Yeah, you have to get too close. You'd get killed before you got that close to me.
Oh, God almighty.
You'd get sniped.
Okay, I'll have to bribe you with the next guest host, Milo. But let's talk about the establishment gaze, because you know, our good friend of mine is not coming on the show tonight, and who's on the show usually, actually a couple of people, and it drives me nuts. You know, as long as you don't get political, all right, the establishment gays are with you. And some of the things I've been called, and this show have been called, and friends have been called because you're on the show. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm being judged because of my political beliefs, so it's kind of like a double standard.
Well, of course, but just imagine. I mean, it's self-evident. The facts speak for themselves. At the last election, 50% of gay men in the UK said they were voting for the right-wing party. But look at the political priorities of every gay charity, every gay lobby group, every gay spokesperson, every gay celebrity, every gay person you've ever heard of is some crazy, wacky, far-left social justice advocate. Well, guess what? It's hardly surprising that when once, you know, finally a gay guy comes along who doesn't share those wacky politics and, you know, rises above the parapet or above the noise and gets some attention and notoriety, that becomes popular because half the gay population don't agree with these crazy morons. These people in GLAAD and these people in Stonewall, all the rest of it, and all these groups are run by lesbians now, which is why they don't pay any attention to gay men's issues anymore. These people are completely balmy and they don't represent us.
I'm glad to hear that. I don't think they do. I don't think they do.
And you know what? I have to say something hugely graspingly egotistical, but I think absolutely accurate. I think that my college tour and this book and my career so far, as short as it has been thus far, there's many, many decades to come. Sorry, progressives, but you know, you're in for a long ride. You just retire now because you'll lose. You would. My career has done more for the image of gay men in conservative America than 30 years of gay activism by the gay establishment. Because I get hundreds of emails a month from people saying, you know what, I watched some of your talks and I do struggle with your lifestyle, but you've kind of made me feel like maybe it's all right that my son's like this. And I sometimes get emails saying, if my son found somebody like you, I guess I'd be more comfortable with his sexuality. Endless things like that. What has GLAAD ever done to reach out to conservative Republicans or to Republican parents of gay people? So, excuse me, to Republican gays, or to the parents of Republican parents of gay children? They've done nothing but ridicule, demean, belittle, and abuse them. And you know, imagine if you were Catholic, as I am, or any kind of, you know, if
you're not Greek Orthodox?
No. I prefer the Catholic art.
Okay.
But no, imagine being a young religious guy of any persuasion, and you grow up and realize you're gay. Is there any more complex, confusing, complicated position? And you look out in society and you think, are there any role models for me who can help me navigate this messy and complex identity that I have, just like everybody does? But and no, the only thing you'll get from the gay establishment is ridicule and harassment and demands to reconcile your religion with your sexuality that are ignorant of both religion and sexuality. You know, the very people who ought to be supporting young gay people struggling to come to terms with their sexual identity are instead abusing and ridiculing them and bullying them into pretending they believe in things they don't. That is really, that is the state of the gay establishment. And frankly, after what happened here in Florida, in Orlando, at Pulse nightclub, I think every gay charity in the United States should be shut down because they have demonstrated they are utterly unfit for purpose.
You know, in case you think you're talking, we have Julie Andrews in studio. It's actually Milo Yiannopoulos. And
my dulcet tones are forgiven you.
Well,
I'm very good at my favorite things. I'll sing for you next time I come on because I haven't
you're going to be a
warmed up
guest
today.
host next time.
Well, I was head chorister at Canterbury Cathedral in England, so I'll sing for you next time I'm on. But I need notice.
Okay, you will. But her voice is very deep. But God, that monologue just threw me off completely. But we're going to take a break right now, and we will be back with more of Milo Yiannopoulos on Get Out South Florida LGBT Radio on 8:50 a.m. WFTL. Stay tuned. Edward, we're talking to Milo Yiannopoulos, and I think I need a little staycation. How are you? We've got Edward from the Grand Resort on the phone with us. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great here. We're having a good time.
Well, that's wonderful.
Now, you've got something coming up at the Grand Resort, Naked Weekend?
Yes, that's one of the many events that we're having this summer. Naked Weekend is starting on September 11th, running through the 17th. The entire property is clothing optional. In addition to our clothing optional courtyard, the guests will be able to sunbathe in the buff in our sun deck, swim naked in our pool, and stroll around in your birthday suit around the common grounds. I
may come in a three-piece suit. I'm a little shy.
Well, it is clothing optional, so it's just basically however your comfortability is, be nude or naked. So.
And you've got a spa membership coming up also.
Yeah, well, we are running a spa membership. Definitely check that out on our website. We have two different types of memberships. There's two different types of treatments. If you just go to grandresort.net/membership, you can definitely take a look at our memberships, and they're actually starting to fly out the door.
Well, and you've got the special get 3 consecutive nights, get the 4th night free.
That is correct. We're running through September 30th. If you stay 3 nights, you get the 4th night free. Also, next month, we're running our Grand Lotto Weekend. The grand prize is an upgraded stay to our Grand Penthouse. It's our spectacular 2-bedroom, 2-bath suite with its own terrace, kitchen, outdoor shower, and jacuzzi. Also, the other prize is that all the other rooms, all the premium rooms, are $159 a night plus tax.
And
we are raffling off.
They are beautiful rooms.
Yes, they are. And we're raffling off other prizes then as well.
Well, we'll see you sometime this week, sir. It is the Grand Resort and Spa, the premier gay and resort in Fort Lauderdale, 1 block from the beach. Go to grandresort.net. And thanks, Ed, for being on the show. Okay, we're back to Milo. And this is Get Out South Florida LGBT Radio, a special edition. We're breaking a little bit of our format tonight. Special in-studio live guest is Milo Yiannopoulos.
Thank you so much.
Oh, okay. I think I told him, I said you were hogging the mic, so I said, just let me...
Yeah, they turned me off because I was used to you just like NPR. Just like NPR. I was being too reasonable and persuasive and adorable, so they switched me off. It's a story of my entire professional career.
You know what we have to do for Milo next time? We have to get a TV show. We have to do our own TV show. I'm actually working on that.
Really?
Yes,
I have cameras in here. We can just publish this. We'll see. Somebody will pick us up.
Radio is just...
Nobody's picked me up.
Television is just radio with pictures. That's all. So, let's clear something up here.
Sure.
All right. I love the buttons on your jacket.
Oh, thank you. It's Balmain.
Presidential?
No. Well, ish. I mean, actually, you know what? They are a little bit. They are a little bit presidential. Do you know that I bought? I spent $5,000 on a life-size replica of the Resolute desk, the Oval Office desk.
Must be nice.
Which is now sitting in my Brickell mansion. and I haven't found a use for it, but it's very nice. I was thinking, I'm sure I'll find a photo shoot for it, but it's just it looks a bit ugly as a desk with a computer on it. So at the moment, I just sign books on it, but it's very nice. I feel presidential, so I like to dress presidential.
Do you think you could be president one day?
No, because I wasn't born here. But then, of course,
That's
you
true.
did let Obama. I'm just kidding.
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
Yes, that's true.
Just
That's true.
joking. Just joking.
I know you are, but
that was a dodgy Photoshop,
people.
though.
So let's talk about. I love double standards.
I love telling people I'm a birther.
I know.
Because it's so it
know,
confuses
but,
them so much. I sometimes over dinner I just insist to people that I'm a birther, and they just look at me mystified. I say, "But did you see it? Did you not see that? Did you not see it?" Because I'm obsessed with internet conspiracies. I love them. Conspiracy theories are my hobby.
Really?
And
So give me one.
Well, just like about the American government deliberately infecting Africa with AIDS for various political objectives, inventing it in the first place so they could sell drugs, putting stuff in the water supply so that they could do deals with Pfizer for Viagra. Just all the wonderful, crazy, the UFO stuff. Just anything. I love that. I love that stuff. It's great. This is why I have become such an effective debunker of conspiracy theories like the wage gap and campus rape culture and all of the other lies that feminism tells us about the differences between men and women, the biological bases for different behaviors of men and women. Because I spent my whole life obsessed with conspiracy theories. I arrive in America and you're full of them. The whole country is full of them.
Look at this. You go to the supermarket, the
every
Inquirer,
newspaper
the Star.
and no, seriously, every newspaper and every television station is broadcasting conspiracy theories. It's like heaven.
Do you think there might be you and I might be on the cover of the Inquirer that you got on the show because
I think we'd have to do something more than just stare lovingly at each other across the studio to get on the cover of the Inquirer.
I know,
what would our celebrity name be?
I don't know.
Milo?
To Milo.
It's not very good. It's not very good, is it?
I love that.
Milom.
To Milo. Actually, I'm doing a fundraiser.
It's not very good. I don't think we could be a couple just because our celebrity name is so
Well,
rubbish.
first of all, I'm not black.
True.
That's true.
True. Not even remotely in the right. I used to take a Pantone color chart out with me to clubs. I swear this is true. Nobody believes me. You know those when you go to paint your house and you have one of those little fans of the different colors, and I used to pull it out, and if you were lighter than Pharaoh's Gold 5, I would say no.
Oh my God!
Pharaoh's Gold 5 used to be my benchmark.
Oh well.
And you could go home with me if you were Pharaoh's Gold 5 or
I
darker.
don't have a. Plus, I'm probably too old for you. But your book is dedicated to
age is not a problem. It just depends how much money you have. No, I'm just kidding. I'm very happy. Me too. I'm very happily settled down. So I'm sorry.
Really?
Sorry to break it to you.
It's okay. So your book is dedicated to John. Who's John?
John is the person I'm very happily settled down with, who is absolutely none of anybody else's business besides the name.
Nope, that's all I wanted to know. And so let's talk.
But you're right about the race.
Okay. Yeah, so. All right, let's bring in our next guest. Let's talk about the double standard. Your book begins with some quotes from Chelsea Handler, Sarah Silverman, Amy Schumer, and Leslie Jones. And first of all, they're all comedians, okay?
Yeah.
So, but as a gay man myself, help me reconcile some of the things you said. For example, let's talk about being forced to bake a cake, okay? When I tell people that I don't agree with the government forcing people to bake cakes for gay couples, I get pie in the face. And do you think people, namely the progressive left establishment gays, like to pick the rights they want and criticize the ones that they don't want? I mean, is freedom an a la carte thing?
Well, no one has ever accused the progressive left of being logically consistent for good reason. No, I don't think look, you can have endless. I'm not the right guest to have complex debates about whatever. I'm a cultural critic, and what I'm interested in is hypocrisy and how things are covered and how things are written up in the media. How stories spiral out of control, and cultural movements and what makes me so humiliated and furious and disappointed and embarrassed to be gay, frankly, is the odious behavior of these awful activists who punish and ridicule and malign and abuse these lovely Christian families who just say, you know what, I'd rather not. And you get these reporters who will just call around the Midwest desperately trying to find someone somewhere who says, I'd probably rather not bake a, cake for a lesbian wedding or something like that, or I'd probably rather not give you a pizza. I've gone out and met these people. You can go on my YouTube. You can see. I see when I met the guys from Memories Pizza. These aren't hateful bigots. These aren't like backward redneck monsters. They're just people with different principles from yours. Leave them alone.
Doesn't make you anti-gay.
No one is bothering you, and having that opinion doesn't make me self-loathing. It just means different people like different things, believe in different things, and have different priorities. Leave them alone. They're leaving you alone. The problem with the gay establishment is they're going out looking to pick fights because they know they can. Because they can bully other people as they used to be bullied. And it's very interesting to me. It's always very revealing to me how groups behave when they acquire power. And the gay lobby now has supreme, unassailable power in the media. They can do anything to anyone, and journalists will back them. And what do they do with that power? They go out and they bully mom and pop pizza stores. How pathetic. These angry, vitriolic, ugly, odious lesbian couples will go out and bully Christians just because they can. I think it's disgusting.
You know what was interesting? A few months ago, because now gay marriage is legal, and one of the organizations, the pro-gay organizations in the country, was saying, donate $5 to stop hate. $5 to stop hate.
If only it were that easy. If only it were that easy, $5.
I was so offended by that because I thought, who is spreading hate? Who is spreading the hate? When you post on Facebook, give me $5 to stop hate. That means, we got gay marriage, but now we have to fight for...
Well, it's this new nebulous concept. It's like anything that we don't agree with, we're going to brand hate speech, abuse, trolling, and harassment. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's meaningless. These are meaningless words defined by meaningless people who we should give far less attention to than we do. And, this hate speech concept, well, the Supreme Court, like me, doesn't recognize the concept at all. And as far as I can tell, hate speech is just something somebody somewhere doesn't like and can't refute with facts, so calls bigoted to make it go away. Well, we're not going away. Actually, we're in the White House and we're publishing New York Times best-selling books, and you better get used to it because we're not going anywhere. And actually, the last 30 years belonged to the progressive left. The last 30 years belonged to the social justice scolds. Well, the next 30 years belong to us. And if you don't like that, and if the prospect of losing and losing and losing again doesn't fill you with joy, then I suggest to you, social justice warriors and gay establishment losers, retire, because you're going to have a very miserable life.
This is Get Out South Florida LGBT Radio on 850 WFTL. I'm Tom Hansaritas, and we are talking to Milo Yiannopoulos. One of the chapters in your book is titled, actually they all start, Why Blah 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 Hates Me. Mm-hmm. Why blah blah blah.
Well, I like to explain to people, I think of myself as a teacher. I'm like Socrates.
Really?
In many ways.
But you don't speak Greek.
No, I don't. Well, my mother brought me up with useful languages.
That's all right. But you're using Yiannopoulos, Mr. Wagner. All right. So, Why Muslims Hate Me. That's one of the chapters.
Yes.
And I love the first line in that chapter. I'd really hate to be thrown off a roof.
Well, imagine if I landed on this face.
Yeah. And we're going to talk a little bit about why Muslims hate you because, of course, it's politically correct. Okay.
I was going to wear a T-shirt today, and I was talked out of it that just said, "Muslims, please stop killing us." Just because
but you state in your
funny.
book that Islam, quote, Islam is not like other religions. It's more inherently prescriptive, and it's much more political, unquote. Anytime we talk about a travel ban, well, you know how that goes. Mm-hmm. And you state that since Islam is just as much a political ideology as a religious one, that we should limit free speech. But didn't our founders want free speech for everything, religious, political, or otherwise?
Well, it's interesting you bring that up.
It's
interesting you bring that up.
Could it be possible I misunderstood you?
Yeah. Well, no, you didn't misunderstand me, but I'm happy to add to your knowledge of your own nation. Okay. I'm happy to bring that. I had a conversation in Walmart, of all places, about that just today.
Darling, I cannot imagine you in Walmart.
I know, but I will...
Tell me the truth. Who did you send in?
I will not relay the circumstances that led to me waiting in the queue at the Walmart money kiosk, but I was there, I promise. I have photographic evidence. And I was having... I promise. And I had a very interesting conversation about this with some of my team, and I was explaining to them that, in fact, the founders did understand that there should be some limits in the First Amendment. And although you have a right to free religious expression, the founders never intended for the First Amendment to protect the advocacy of tyranny. And I believe that partly that is because they were so brilliant and forward-thinking in many ways, partly directed at Islam. But even if it wasn't, Islam is such an extraordinarily political ideology and such a prescriptive code for life that for me it steps far beyond the bounds of any other religion. Everywhere you find Islam, you find theocracy and oppression and tyranny and authoritarianism.
I have an theocracy.
And
theocracy. I got to lighten this up a little bit, dude.
No, well, so it looks. I enjoy educating Americans about their own country, like Christopher Hitchens and Alexis de Tocqueville before me. You seem to need it on a regular basis from Europeans, but no, the founders, in fact, specifically said that the First Amendment was not there to protect people advocating for tyranny. It was there for people to express their liberty. And in my view, it's perfectly acceptable to ban the veil because it is an expression of tyranny.
We're talking to Milo Yiannopoulos. Thank you for coming up. We've got a little bit more time left, but thanks first of all for coming up to Palm Beach County.
You're so welcome. I like it up here.
You're dressed for the part, by the way.
No, I am. I wore shorts today.
I wore pants. I always wear
shorts since school.
He comes in shorts. I haven't worn socks in like 5 years. But
I've got burgundy crushed velvet slippers, and they just
what size shoe do you wear?
10.5.
Let's swap. You can have my Nikes.
They just don't go with any socks, so I went barefoot today.
Seriously, I don't even wear socks.
I prefer
to church.
It bare, don't you?
Yeah, I do too. But the author of the new book, Dangerous, available, Milo, on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com.
You've now fulfilled your obligations. I'm leaving.
No, lock that door. Lock that door. But we've got a couple minutes before our next break. So a lot has gone on since you first came out supporting Daddy.
Yes.
Okay, that's President Trump. For those who don't know who Milo refers to, what the heck is going on with POTUS? Do you still have hopes for him?
I don't care about anything except free speech and the wall. So I really don't. I'm not interested in politics anyway. The only reason I've ever been interested in politics is Trump. And so for me, the effect of Trump is just as important as the intentions of Trump. And the effect of Donald Trump on free speech has been magnificent. The election of Donald Trump is a victory for the First Amendment, the reverberations of which will be felt for decades. And that's why he still gets a 60 to 70% approval rating from me. That will ascend to an immediate 100% the day that he lays the first brick down of that GD wall. Once the wall goes down and he makes it, and he meets his obligations to the people who put him in office, who really do care about the substantive policy issues, versus those of us like me who cared about free speech, the First Amendment, and the people he was irritating as much as anything else. Once he starts building the wall, his approval rating from me will go to 100. I just don't care about anything else, and I don't think America does either. And you know what? I don't trust the media to report what's happening in the White House anyway. I know Steve Bannon, and I know the man, and I know how he's been reported on and how he's been described by the media, and I know how far apart those two things are. I don't trust them to describe the color of the White House lawn.
When we get back, what I'd like to talk about and give it the time it deserves is free speech.
Wonderful.
Okay, because
Wonderful.
I don't think
my favorite subject.
It is my favorite subject too, and that's I think where both of us we do have something in common.
We have everything in common. We've agreed on everything so far.
Who knew? Who knew? But you're listening to Get Out South Florida LGBTQ Radio on 850 WFTL. I'm Tom Hansaridis. I'm going to ask Milo if he knows how to spell my name, but he did actually on his Facebook page. And we're talking to Milo.
I don't write my Facebook page. Are you kidding?
Oh, you have people. People.
Somebody is the boss of somebody is the boss of somebody. Right? No, I'm kidding. Of course I know how to spell your name.
You're listening to Get Out South Florida LGBT Radio on 850 WFTL. We'll be right back. So I listed all these names online that people can use. I said, first of all, lightning won't strike you if you call in. Mm-hmm. And secondly, I gave a list of names that people can use if they didn't want to use their real names, like Chip and Felicia. And anyway, but the people that really care are just listening. They're just listening, okay? They don't have to call in. So free speech is one of my favorite topics because I think that that's what this country is, I hate to sound corny, all about. And
well, it's the right on which all the others rest. And without that, you have nothing.
Okay, so give me an historical perspective on free speech?
Well, one of the reasons that this country was founded was to escape the perceived tyranny of monarchy from, in various places in Europe. I mean, this is a country invented by a group of really, really smart dudes not very long ago. It's a work in progress. It's a messy experiment. But the one thing that has, up until the last couple of decades, held it together, despite its multifarious cultures and opinions and skin colors and all the rest of it, is a commitment that people should be able to say, do, and be whatever they want. And that, coupled with capitalism and property rights and all the rest of it, all the other things that make the Western world a nice place to live, have made this the greatest nation in the history of human civilization. Even surpassing our own ancient Greek heritage in every meaningful sense. And the worry for the rest of us in Europe, where so much censorship is brought in by the government, is that we know that's going to happen everywhere, but America's leading the way in corporate and private sector censorship. Social media companies, the media, universities, which I think you can argue have become sufficiently corporatized, in their equality and diversity departments and in their administrative structures. Orwell got it wrong, or at least he didn't foresee the entire picture. It isn't just the government who's coming for your free expression. It's corporations too. It's corporations with their balmy, bonkers, far-left diversity departments. It's all of the different organs of civil society, Hollywood, the media, everybody's out there trying to suppress your right to express yourself, especially and particularly if you are a conservative or even just a libertarian, or even if you're on the left and don't agree with the wackiest and furthest left fallacies of the social justice movement. So for those of us in Europe who look up to you guys as, in some senses we see you as, sort of retarded younger cousins, but in others we admire you for your commitment to free expression and for the First Amendment, which is unique in the world. We look up to you and we worry about what happens when America loses its commitment, both to capitalism, which is definitely at risk in this country, but also, and more importantly, from the First Amendment, because if you don't have the right, if you can't use language how you choose, you can't discuss ideas. This is the most important entertainment marketplace in the world. It's the most important academic marketplace in the world. It's the most important place in the world. And currently, you simply cannot express yourself freely and openly in America. And that's horrifying to those of us who had this idea of America as a sort of wonderland where you could come and be anything. I came here and I discovered that actually, in many respects, the free speech of Americans is more heavily restricted, maybe not by the government because of the First Amendment, but by other forces, by social forces and by corporate forces. The free speech of Americans is more heavily restricted here in some ways than in anywhere else I've ever been, even in Europe.
How so?
In Germany, you can't talk about immigration despite the fact that people are being raped, mugged, and murdered by Syrians. In the
now
UK,
somebody's going to say, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine.
But somebody's going to say, there goes Milo being, anti-feminist, anti-blah, blah, blah. I'm agreeing with you.
I'm a gay man. Is it not the most rational thing in the world to be an Islamophobe? Is it not the most rational position to be scared of a religion? And I'm sorry, I'm tired of being careful and polite about this. I'm not talking about terrorism. I'm not talking about radical Islam. I'm not talking about ISIS. I'm talking about Muslims. Mainstream Muslim society. In 11 or 12 countries, you and I would be killed for what we are. This is not extremist. This is not the edge of the religion. This is the core, the very heart of the faith and the culture that surrounds that faith everywhere it exists. And when that religion comes to the West, it brings those values with it. And Florida, of all places, should know this. So no, I'm not going to be nice about it. And as a gay man, I'm not going to apologize. I'm perfectly happy to defend my position as an Islamophobe because I'm gay.
Yeah,
of course, I'm Islamophobic.
Now, you don't speak Greek. I speak Greek fluently. But
congratulations.
Thank you. I know you think it's a dead language. But
no, I didn't say it was dead. I just said it was useless.
I love speaking Greek.
Well, I'm sure the other three people in Florida.
No, I love it. But I'm going to Greece this coming Thursday, and I haven't been to Greece since pre-EU. So I don't know what I'm going to expect. I have family there.
Well, you're going from the birthplace of modern civilization to a third world country.
Okay. What I'm really looking forward to is I'll finally be able to go up and touch the Parthenon. Okay. But, I talked to my cousins in Greece. I have first cousins. And I remember 8-9 years ago, my cousin Cece would say to me, "Oh, we love Obama. We love Obama." And I'm like, "What are you, crazy?" And we love Obama. And now they're saying, "Oh, we hate Trump. We hate Trump." So why do we look to Europe to decide whether, our country's right or wrong? Why do we look to...
you're asking why you should listen to me? Well, because...
but why do we look
because if you consider this, like the whole of Europe is basically Democrat, right? We don't have Republicans anywhere in Europe, right?
Yeah.
The most right-leaning, rightward parties in Europe are fairly squarely in line with the Democrats on everything, right? We don't have a Republican Party in any of the powerful countries in Europe. And look at where it has got us. Look at what's happened to Germany. Look at what's happened to Sweden, the rape capital of the world now. Malmo, the rape capital of, well, not of the world, excuse me, the rape capital of Europe. Malmo in Sweden. Guess why? Germany. Guess why? Look at what's happened to the UK, the Islamization of London. The reason I don't go back there. Guess why? The reason is left-wing governments that pander to totalitarian Middle Eastern regimes. The reason is social justice. The reason is left-wingers. And it has become more dangerous, not less dangerous, to be gay, to be a woman in many of these European cities, thanks to the pandering and mollycoddling of the left to a vicious, violent and ugly ideology that is invading the continent. Why should you listen to us? Because we are a warning. Well, you should listen to us because we are your future. If you don't
say that
change
in your book.
course, if you don't pay attention, if you don't return to the values that made this country free and fabulous, if you don't adhere to freedom, to the First Amendment, to capitalism, to the American dream, if you don't return to those values, we are your future, and that's why you should listen to us. And that's why you always do. That's why you constantly import Europeans to tell you about yourselves, because you don't seem able to do any real serious degree of self-reflection. Alexis de Tocqueville, Christopher Hitchens, and now me. You need us to remind you, because you're such a young country. I don't mean to offend you through this. You just haven't been around that long. I get really, I laugh because people are proud of the fact that they have, buildings that date to 1930 in this country. My college was built in 1412. You just don't know anything yet. You're an experiment, but you're an experiment that's produced a remarkable result so far. And the rest of the world needs you to stay that way.
One of the comments that I've gotten was, "This isn't free speech. This is giving hate a platform." So please help me out there.
I don't know what that means.
I don't either.
I don't know what that means. But the only explanation I can come up with when people say that, what they do...
I want to ask you out for dinner. But...
No, but look, what's the substantive argument? Always the way to respond to these criticisms is, what fact are you disputing? Which bit of his argument are you suggesting is wrong? Is there a study that he's misquoting? Is there a figure that you dispute? Is there a line of reasoning or a logical leap that you think he's making that he shouldn't be? Ask for specifics. Every time someone says to you, "That's hateful, that's bigoted, this is hate speech," drill down to the specifics, and you will find that those people are utterly incapable of responding in any meaningful way whatsoever. All they do is yell, hate speech, when they don't like the sound of something, because it might shock horror, be conservative, or it might shock horror, not be, but step outside the extraordinarily narrow bounds of political correctness that this country has established for itself against all reason and sense.
The Washington Times wrote, and I think you saw this, was that the welfare of the collective is replacing the rights of the individual.
Yeah.
Could you explain that for me, Lucy?
The problem is the welfare of the collective in America is actually being sort of defined by a tiny minority of the population. These sort of wacky social justice warriors who are defining welfare as the freedom from anyone's opinion who might disagree with them. It's like you're the freedom from having ever to be offended, the freedom from ever having to worry about encountering someone who believes differently from you. Well, that is entirely contrary to both the letter and the spirit of the First Amendment. It isn't what America is about. It isn't what this country is for. Collectivism is not what America is about. And if you want to live in a communist country, go to one.
Reagan said something wonderful. You were born after Reagan.
I'm far too young to remember.
Darling. He said they may be the loudest, but they're not in the majority.
No, they're not in the majority.
You know, I wanted to leave you with this song. This is kind of my gift to you.
It's lovely. I haven't heard it for a very long time.
I know, and it's a song that I hope...
You really are gay.
It's the song that I hope the left sings to you one day, that the halls of Congress sing to you one day. You've just become my idol. You were, actually.
Angel.
I really do.
Angel.
And
Angel.
how much time do we have for Karen? 1 minute. Milo, you are the author of Dangerous, and tell us all the places where people can get it.
Well, you can now buy it at Barnes & Noble. Thankfully, at last, they have relented from their crusade to suppress the book, so you can now buy it at Barnes & Noble. So I'm supposed to say thank you very much, and I'm very happy to have the relationship.
You mean it's on the shelves?
Yeah, it's on the shelves. Well, they ordered one copy per store.
I was there yesterday, and I ended up...
One copy per store. We'll see how that ends. But you can get it at Amazon, of course, and it's now in stock, despite the long period of being out of stock. So you can get it anywhere.
I'm probably going to get mine in the mail the day, Monday.
I'll fetch you one from the car.
Thank you, darling. But I've really enjoyed this. I hope you have too.
It's been lovely, and I would love to come back.
You will. I'm going to hound you till you do.
I would love that.
We're going to take a hiatus. As I said, I'm going to Greece, and I'm going to send Milo, texts in Greek so you can learn Greek. But
I won't read them, but I will enjoy knowing you're thinking of me.
Oh, I will. And welcome. Thank you for being a guest on our show, Milo. It's really
Thank you.
I know that driving up to Palm Beach County was probably the hardest part for you. Maybe not. But thanks.
No, I have very comfortable cars.
I know. I saw this entourage. But thanks also to your staff for being very available and generous with their time. And thanks most of all to the people who actually listen to this show. Okay, not the ones that don't, because I don't really care about you. I hope you'll listen again.
We're more
leaving,
alike than you realize.
I know. Oh, no. We're leaving on a high note. I'm off to Greece for 3 weeks, and we'll be back on the air after Labor Day on September 9th. Till then, I'm Tom Hansaritas for Get Out South Florida LGBT Radio. I'm going to let Milo have the last word.
If you really believe in all of the things that make gay civilization and culture wonderful, your right to be, do, say anything, to be fabulous, to express yourself, to be dissident, mischievous, and naughty, you have to believe in the First Amendment. And that today, as confusing and remarkable and extraordinary as it is a conservative position. So get used to it.
You are one tough broad.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, folks. See you in September.